Hi guys, this is Rosita Applebum and I'm here with a Let's Talk video, and I've missed these so much. I know you guys missed them too. Sorry if the left side of my face looks a little light. I'm filming at 9:20 p.m. so I have like my lamp on, just kind of working with what I got for right now until I get my lights situated and everything like that. I love making these kinds of videos because it feels like I'm talking to my friends, and you guys are my friends, all 42,000 of you. So today's topic is going to be on relationships. I am going to make a couple more for like school and different topics, but I do want to focus them on relationships because that's like the most requested. So today's topic, I'm going to talk about timing and I guess like priorities and just time on both parts. So I've gotten a couple of emails and some Instagram posts asking me how to deal with certain situations. So I'm not going to be saying any names or anything like that. But definitely feel free to email me questions or scenarios that you're going through or that you're just curious about, and I'll definitely kind of like compile them into a video. But for today, I'm going to talk about timing. This can be very hard to actually grasp when it's like you yourself, when you're in that situation, because I know me personally, timing is everything. One of these specific scenarios that I got was about a guy that never makes time for his girlfriend, never calls her or texts her, and he always says that he's working and that he chooses his homegirls over his girlfriend. There's a couple things in that scenario. First and foremost, him not calling you or texting you, that doesn't seem like very boyfriend-like to me. That seems more like maybe you guys are getting to know each other. I mean, for me personally, if you're my boyfriend, we should be talking every single day because, I mean, you can't leave room for other people to fill that gap in. Me personally, what I've gone through, I've been that person where I get so like attached to a person where it feels like I'm giving more than what they're giving me, and it feels like they're not giving me time when in fact they really are. It's just not up to my standards. And you know, you grow from that. You grow to learn that you need to let people live their own lives. Yes, they're in a relationship with you, but you also have to do your own thing. So I think tip number one is to really find yourself and love yourself and find hobbies, find friends, you know, get on your stuff. You are sitting there waiting for your boyfriend to call you when you can be out getting your money together, or, you know, just getting things done, like being with your family, or, you know, picking up that phone and calling your father, or just like little things. Like I get a lot of comments saying like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, I want to start a YouTube channel. Like, go and start that YouTube channel. Like, I guess the key point that I'm trying to get across is that don't sit and wait for someone, because that obviously means that you're giving yourself too much room. Like, you're giving them too much room. If you're constantly giving that other person the upper hand to always be the one to have to call you, and like, you should just go out and get your things done, and you know, you guys will find your happy place together. I know like in long distance relationships, time is so important because it can be so hard to feel appreciated or feel missed when there's no like physical connection, and it's all about like, you know, calling each other and doing little things to show each other that you miss them and that you care about them or love them. If you love someone and your heart is honestly like aching, you just need to tell that person. I mean, honestly, like, you can't just go beating around the bush. If you think as his girlfriend you're not getting enough attention, like, you should just talk to him about it. I mean, if you talk to him about it and it still is not getting through the head, I mean, I think it's time to just kind of push back a little and focus on yourself a lot more. I think time is like the most important thing that we have. It's the biggest compliment to someone when you're giving them your time, because you can't get that back. I mean, yeah, you can give them gifts, yeah, you can give them like monetary possessions, but giving someone your time is just the biggest form of flattery. I mean, when someone that I really care about, you know, goes out of their way to call me or to text me or to come see me, I honestly appreciate it. And I think my mistake is not being verbally appreciative. Like, I appreciate it in my own ways, but we have to be appreciative of what we got. Like, if he can only call you once a day because his workload is so heavy, you know, I think you should like take that one call and run with it, because I mean, obviously he doesn't have to call you, so the fact that he is calling you says a lot about him. You know, it says that he's actually giving you an effort. I think if the guy or the girl is always at work, I think we should appreciate that, because imagine it the other way around. Imagine them having way too much time on their hands and you're just gonna be sitting there nagging like, why don't you have a job? Like, why aren't you going out and getting stuff done? Why aren't you doing anything? So I think we are never really truly satisfied. We want someone with goals, we want someone with a great job, but when they go out and get it, and it's hard for us to comprehend that time for us is gonna have to kind of go down for a bit until they get to where they need to be. Even when that other person gets to what they want to get, there's still always more room for improvement, and there's always more room for greater things to come. So I think we just have to kind of level things out and see if it's worth it or not. I mean, if you're constantly crying, if you're constantly like really depressed or sad, and that other person is not comforting you about this situation, I think it's time to move on, because I mean, it's gonna be tough, but I think the other person has to be very supportive of you, especially if you're the type of person that's always home, you don't really go out too much, you don't have too many girlfriends, your boyfriend's like your only friend, and let's say you don't have a job because you really don't need one. I know it can get really like boring just sitting at home, but just try to like do things. I mean, try to get online and do things and discover things and just make the world a better place, as cheesy as that sounds. I mean, if you're always bored, like, I don't know, come on, like, I don't believe in being bored, honestly. Like, yeah, you should relax at home, but just don't sit around waiting for someone, because life is gonna pass you by and you're gonna realize that you waited around for someone who was out getting theirs and you weren't getting yours. And then in the end, if it doesn't work out, you're gonna see all of this time as wasted time. I think if you truly unconditionally love someone, you are going to make things work in your own way. I mean, if he can't give you all his time at the moment and you find it's worth it to stick with this person, you're gonna stick with it. I know for me personally, I've been in that predicament where I want more of someone, and I get angry at, you know, the world and that person, but you know, when that person is the right person for you, you kind of sit there and you realize what's really worth it. Like, is fighting constantly about the same thing worth losing that person? If that person really truly means something to you, you're gonna just deal with it, but to a certain extent. You know, you don't want to get stepped on, but you don't also want to drive the other person crazy with the same situation, the same naggingness, when it truly is something that that person is doing for a good reason. I mean, if he's just out playing basketball all day and he never makes time for you, I mean, that's two different stories. Like, I think take everything into consideration. Like, if he's spending time with his family, don't be jealous of that. You know, family is such a big thing to people. So I think just like reevaluate what he's doing when he's not with you. And you know, people have to have their own lives. Like, when you're in love with someone, you know, you want them all for you, but smothering them and just like caging them up is not gonna make them love you anymore. It's just gonna drive them away. I think you have to really evaluate what that other person is doing and if it's worth dealing with, basically. I know like missing someone can be the hardest thing. Especially like in long distance relationships, it feels like you're never gonna get to see that person, but I say just take things day by day, and you know, time will go faster. If you sit there and you're thinking about all the time that you're not seeing that person, it's gonna feel slow. But if you go out and you get things done and you're doing things for yourself, and in between you guys, you know, rekindle and show each other that you miss each other in small ways, I think everyone will just be a lot happier. If you're sitting there just like dreading the fact that you miss them so much and why can't they see you and why can't they come to see you right now, and you're just gonna make yourself really miserable, and you're just gonna hurt yourself, because that person's gonna end up leaving because you just like bombarded them with the same situation, and then you're gonna be left alone with all this time on your hands, and you're gonna feel so dumb for letting such a small thing get in the way. I also got an email from a guy who basically told me his story about him and his girlfriend, and he watches, I guess, my videos, and he asked me what I thought about the situation. I'm not going to say his name, but basically the situation was that she was just holding out a lot of information to the point where she blocked him on Instagram so that he's not all on top of it. And I think he answered his own question when he really went into detail about all the things that she's doing and how it makes him feel. Because if he's to the point where he's crying and he's in tears and he honestly loves her so much, but she's just like tearing him apart. I mean, sometimes that quote, if you love them, let them go, is honestly like the biggest, most truthful thing. There's so much more to life. We're still young. I mean, if yeah, you find your soulmate, good for you at a young age, but how can that person be your soulmate or the love of your life if they're treating you like shit? Like, it just doesn't make sense. If that person really loves you, they're not going to treat you like shit. They're not just going to push you to the side and block you from social media and block you from their life, and yet still use you in other ways and accept gifts from you, and yet curse you out and fight with you all day. I mean, really see what that person is in it for. If you feel like you're giving your all to someone and all your time and all your efforts, if it's not being appreciated, like, what's the point? You can be putting all that energy into something so much better. All that energy that you put into that, going to see that person, you know, making cute little things for them, buying them things, doing this and that for them, calling them, nagging them, being there, crying. All of that energy, whether it's positive or negative, you can be putting that into something so much greater for yourself or your family. You know, doing things that you want to do, making a YouTube channel, making videos, going to school, getting that job you really wanted, saving up for a vacation. I mean, that's a lot of effort that you're putting into just one single person. And if that person is not going to appreciate it, it's just a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of emotion. It's a waste of a lot of things, because you're also just hurting yourself. And then in future relationships, you're not going to know how to handle certain things. When you're dealing with someone mature, you don't have to sit there and say, like, why are you hanging out with your homegirls? You should be hanging out with me. Like, it's just not going to be present. I mean, yeah, they have their friends, but there's friends time, there's girlfriend time, there's, you know, that person has to know how to prioritize their life. I don't think you can honestly sit there and say you love someone and yet never give them the time of day. Whether it's a phone call, a text message, a note, I don't know, whether it's a post on Instagram, like the littlest things, I mean, they matter. And I think we should just appreciate them more. Sometimes the case is that that person really isn't showing you any love, and you should definitely, like, back up from that situation. But sometimes that person is showing you their affection and their love. You just don't know it. You're kind of blinded by your own standards. You're blinded by what society tells you he should be doing. He should be outside your window every day. Like, no, that's not true life. That's not real life right now. Like, that's not reality. Like, we have to just sit there and really realize that that other person isn't a mirror of us. Like, how they're showing us love is their way of showing us love, and we should appreciate that, and we should really sit there and be thankful for that. And if it's not even close to what you think is okay, then why are you dealing with it? I think you really have to sit there and ask yourself, like, why am I crying? Why am I dealing with this every single day? It's just, there's no point to that. Honestly, if you're in a relationship and you feel like that person isn't giving you enough time, I say don't be drastic and just cut them off, but I say talk to them about it. You know, bring it up in little different ways. Don't just sit there and blame that person, like, why aren't you showing me time? Why aren't you doing this for me? Blah, 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 because it's just gonna drive them away. It's gonna just make them want to leave. They're not gonna want to deal with you, because nobody wants to sit there and be blamed for everything. See what really is the core issue, or see what's really down at the bottom. Like, is it because he has a really busy job? Because if that's the case, like, pat him on the back for dealing with so much shit, because, you know, having a tough job and being at work all day isn't easy. And if you're sitting there and you're not working, you shouldn't blame that person. You should be happy for that person. If it's because they're with their friends all the time, you know, say, hey, listen, you know, I haven't seen you in a while. I want to see you. Do you think we could work something out this week? If he can't, you know, don't cut him off still. You know, give him a couple chances, see what happens. And if obviously the person is not giving you any time of day and he only calls you for certain reasons, come on, girl. You use your gut, use your instincts, and back up and just cut him off, because we are not here as objects. We are not here to be used. We are not put here to be used as someone else's, like, downtime or someone else's extra. Like, we shouldn't just be someone who they call when they're bored. Like, I think the most important thing for me in a relationship is that I want to be that person's best friend, and I think we rush into things without knowing that other person and seeing if you're even compatible as friends. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't want someone to just call me when they're bored or when they just want to get something. Like, I want someone to call me when they have a question or they don't know what to pick, or, you know, just silly things like that. Like, I just want to be that person where they find comfort in. We want to be that person's peace. We don't want to be the person who's nagging all day. And I think we've all made mistakes, and we've all been in that situation where we want to take arguments back and take silly moments like that back. But if that person stuck with you, you know, just move on from that. If you're constantly making little things big deals, you know, it's okay. You're not at fault. You're not wrong. It happens to us. We are emotional creatures. Sometimes we say things we don't mean. Sometimes we bring up things we shouldn't bring up. But you know, remind that person that you really love them and that you don't want them to leave, and you know, want to make things work, and make sure that you keep your word. If you are constantly nagging about one thing, make sure you don't nag about it anymore, because you can't say sorry and then just keep on doing the same thing. It just doesn't work that way. So that was it for today's Let's Talk. I don't want this video to get extremely painfully long, even though I feel like I had a lot more to say. I'll probably just get another video out. Just let me know what like specific questions or topics you have about guys. If you're wondering about my eye makeup, I use the Vice 2 palette, and yes, I will have a tutorial on it. The camera is definitely not doing it justice. So my shirt is just a leotard from H&M. My watch is a Michael Kors Lexington watch, and on my lips I am wearing Bare It All by Wet n Wild, and then I'm using Strip Down Lip Pencil by MAC. As a blush, I use the Tarte Amazonian Clay blush palette. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys. And let's talk. I'm in general. What was I saying? And yeah. And I know, I mean, I don't know what I'm really saying right now. So, don't sit around and wait for someone. And that's my phone. Rude. Like, if you think so let me know if you guys like. Ooh, I'm like, the camera does not do it justice, girl.